let's do 10.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea. What year again?
I did my undergrad at Wisconsin College called Point College.
Oh, yeah.
So there I did the yellow building up there.
That's why you're in Ann Arbor right now. Oh, I got it. Okay. Here in Ann.
There's roads around the town, but
Nice.
there's no cars, so
Right.
I mean the tuk-tuks and the trucks get around somewhere.
Yeah.
The next bend before we stop.
Really? That's pretty good. That's really good. This would be, oh, yeah, houses right beside us.
Yeah.
She's got a baby on her back. How about that, eh? Don't look. Yeah.
We stopped playing soccer this morning.
That's great. Beam me up, Scotty.
Sewing machines. Loom. Another room. Meeting room here. Overlooking the lake.
I think Trout Lake in Michigan has the same thing.
Vocational education or vocational training center that is really a community-based center. It's run by the community. It's not owned or operated by an outside agency like the government or even the town. This is really formulated by people that live here. We definitely help raise the money. Amigos de Santa Cruz. We've been working here for about 14 years now, and we helped the leaders in this community come together to design and actually envision and make a reality this center for training people. And so Noe is the director of that, also my assistant director of Amigos de Santa Cruz. So this building really came out of a vision about 4 or 5 years ago when as a group of leaders, including Noe, who's a teacher here, started saying, okay, now everybody's going to school. Parents are changing their attitude about education. This is like about 10 years into us being here. And I'm not going to say it's because of Amigos, but certainly we removed some barriers to education. We helped promote education to the point where kids were going to school. They were definitely graduating from 6th grade. Parents were proud of that. In the old days, there wasn't a lot of value in education because what they were looking at really was how are we going to feed our kids tomorrow. And so you thought about that, you didn't think about going to school. But times have changed, and when we started removing the financial barriers, kids started going to school and staying in school, they started graduating from 6th grade and they wanted to go on. In public education, that was it. In this town, if you wanted to go beyond 6th grade, you had to go to another town. You had to take a boat, which cost money, and pay a tuition. And so, of course, that was very limited. That's when we started a scholarship program. And then eventually we got our own middle school here, so kids can go to school till 9th grade. It's not our school, it's the school of the community. It's a national free middle school at Bosico. But now kids, young people grow up and they want to go on to school to study professionalism. Teachers, secretaries, accountants, it's called diversificado when you go from 10th grade to 12th grade. And we've had a lot of those people go off to school with help from us, come back as professional teachers, secretaries, accountants, and so on. But the question arose 10 years down the road. Okay, now we've got some kids going to school, they're coming back as teachers. This town is changing, educational level, value is changing. But what about jobs? There's no jobs in this town. There's no economy in Santa Cruz. If you look around, you'll see that in the center of town there's really no stores. Very few. Little Tiendas. There's no retail stores for selling, or tourist stores, or restaurants, or little hotels. There's really not a lot of economy going on here. Not a lot of entrepreneurship. So parents, leaders started saying, you know, what's the next step? And we started talking about hands-on skills. There also are no carpenters. There's 2 carpenters in this whole town. No electricians, no plumbers, no welders. things like that, no chefs, no cooks. So we presented the idea of a vocational program, which was a new concept to people here. Presented that and asked people, if there was an interest, and of course there was a great interest. A committee was formed with a lot of help from outside people locally. Professors from the university helped us do a business plan, for example. Engineers and architects who came.
Can you tell us just briefly about the school? We're going to try to visit, some of us are going to try to visit the school that doesn't have electricity, that's a hike from here.
Okay.
On Wednesday afternoon.
Great. One of the things we do in our outlying communities is set up, work with communities, go in and with indigenous staff, not me saying it, we gather the women together and say, how can we work together to make the kids have, to have healthier families? Are you interested in working together with us? And we've been successful in starting 4 centers. One of the centers is way up in the mountains. You go 2 towns over on a boat and then hike up into a little community called Zanhomel. 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, even the mayor, the candidate for the mayor, didn't know that town, it's not a town, it's a little cluster of families, existed. It wasn't official, it doesn't have any legal status. It's a break-off from another town. Several years ago, probably 30, 40 years ago, one family broke off and then, they just started settling it. Now there's a community of, ¿cuántas familias in San Juan? 32? 36 families. There's little children growing up that can't go to school because you have to cross a river. So anyway, we started, long story short, we tried to work with them, but there was no place to build a little center. And when I say a center, I'm talking about a roof. Outdoor roof, rustic, but a place where women could gather, prepare food in a little rustic kitchen with our staff, learn about nutrition, learn about how to incorporate vegetables and things like that in their diets, learn about everything from self-esteem to how to vote. It's a women's group, and also working with the children, giving them a daily snack that would be helping their development. So we started that. We couldn't really find a way to work with them because the town was so up on a steep hill. The houses were you had to cut through everybody's yard to get anywhere. But last year, a farmer who had a piece of flat land down below in a finca, like a coffee finca, said, I'd be willing to lease you this piece of property. It was smaller than this piece of property. And we went to look at it, and we thought, oh, this is great. You could lease it for a couple $100 for the year. We could cut down some of the coffee and build a little center like we do in the other places. Then we looked at it and said, we could build a school here. This would be a cool place for a school. This town has nothing. It's never had anything. It's had a lot of promises from people, but nothing's ever come through. So we actually contacted another organization and invited them. They build schools. We don't build schools. We don't have money to build schools. But we invited another organization to come and meet this community, and they were so touched by the community and their desire to educate their children that they said that we'll buy this land and we'll build you a school. The school is built. And we just inaugurated it February 10th. It's a preschool. It's a school for little tiny children, and it's wonderful. It's actually an educational center. There's a big room like this for the nutrition thing, and then there's open 2 classrooms. It doesn't have electricity. We didn't put electricity in, but we did set it up so electricity could come in. And the dream we have is very ecological. The way we built it, there's eco-latrines that are being used there. We're doing organic gardening there. We're teaching them about banana circles and how to grow things locally. And if we can get a solar system on top of the school that could run a few lights and maybe a little music box for the teacher to play, some music and do music with the kids, that would be a dream come true for them. We don't need a big system, but when I mentioned it to John, he said, oh yeah, we want to go see that.
The solar equipment for this building was purchased a year ago by John, and it's been sitting in customs, I think.
It's been a good long time in customs.
Yeah.
By the way, it was purchased by the Rotary Club of Guatemala South, and also the Rotary Club of Ann Arbor. And then the Rotary Foundation chipped in some money, so a bunch of people from all over the world helped sponsor this.
And I think you're all aware it's been a long process to get this off the ground, but we're finally all here today and hopefully starting to actually install those panels and equipment today. I think we should be able to get it done in a week. I just met Greg and MJ, and they seem to be competent installing. So I'm very glad about that. As is, Carlos seems to have some experience as well. I still haven't worked closely with Carlos. We just spent a day together last week. But anyway, about the installation, it's basically some solar panels, some batteries, the equipment to charge those batteries using those solar panels to supply a computer room, which is, I think, in the next floor below us. It's a very sunny, hot roof upstairs. That's basically what we have to do this week here. What you have to do, actually, I'm leaving this afternoon with the natural building team, going over to San Marcos. So we've got this morning to explain what's going on upstairs, and I think we should do a tour at some stage of the materials and the site that we'll be working on. But they basically got this roof up here. We're going to stick some panels on there. We're going to be charging the batteries in this little shed, which they've kindly built for us this last week. We arrived here a week ago and said, okay, what are we doing here? And do we need somewhere to run the batteries, to store the batteries? So we're going to be storing the batteries up there. And then there's an inverter which converts the battery power, which is 48 volt. And that sends that 110 volt, which is the normal household electric current, through some wires down to the computer lab. And there's a switch where we can decide whether we're going to use solar today or if we're going to use the standard mains. Because here in Guatemala, solar is it's fabulous for this time of year when we've got sun all day long. It's quite close to the vertical, and we're also at altitude. I don't know if you're all aware, we're about 1,600 meters above sea level. And what that is in feet, about 5,000?
A mile.
A mile, yeah. We're a mile above sea level here, which means that the sun is merciless. And so, yeah, be careful. I've been here for 8 years, I still get burned regularly when I don't take care. So be careful on the roof, use your sunscreen. And sunglasses as well. There's a lot of people who live here have serious retina problems from working outside all day. So we're going to be installing the solar up there. I was talking about the sun in Guatemala, that's right. So we have, I don't know if you're all aware of the seasons in Guatemala. We've got the rainy season and the dry season. The rainy season starts in April, picks up in May, and June it really pounds down. And then July it starts easing off, and August it's a little lighter as well. And then it picks up again. September's really heavy, October's really heavy. You'll sometimes get 6 weeks of just cloudy grey days with hardly any sun at all. So that's the difficult time, is the September-October period. Is are we going to get enough sun to power the batteries to keep the computers charged? Probably we will this time, because we've got so many panels for the number of batteries. We've got 4 huge panels up there, and we've only got 8 batteries to charge. So we should be fine for now. But calculating the angle of the panels for the climate is quite a technical problem. We're still trying to work out the optimal angle for those solar panels. So you'll be a part of that design process, and we're going to take you through some work examples of how we set up the system. Although it was actually you originally set it up. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
I'd be interested to hear more about how you chose the system. But
it was based on data that you could get in the States that actually didn't differentiate between different parts of Guatemala very much. Guatemala was about like 100 square mile chunks. They said there was a certain amount of sunlight here in general. It sounds like there's more sunlight than we had predicted.
Yeah, what they do is they tend to average it out. They compensate. But at the moment we've got a huge amount of sunshine. We can generate a lot of power with this sun. It's pretty much all day long, from 6:30 in the morning till 6 in the evening. And with the number of panels we've got, we could have a much bigger bank of batteries. But yeah, during the winter months, it really could have.
I think we should try to, our nonprofit, in order to make this, for little money, we could double the number of batteries, and double the capacity of the system for about half the year, maybe 3/4 of the year. And so that's a really reasonable expenditure. So we're looking at doing that as phase 2. Also possibly make it so that the panels, they can change the angle on the panels depending upon what season it is.
Yeah.
So that it tilts more towards the average, perpendicular to the sun on average. So we're looking at being able to do that as phase 2 of this project. Right now we're mounting the panels at one angle, and they'll stay at that. And it's pretty much to shed water. I mean, if you aim the panels straight up, just use them flat on the roof. If we just lay them down on the roof flat, they would work pretty darn well. But they blow away in a windstorm, and there's plenty of wind here. But we're going to mount them on brackets and give them a little bit of pitch right now, so that they shed water. Eventually, we'll come back and create a system where they can change it every 4 months. They might change the angle of the panels here to optimize it for where the sun is at that time. For the sun.